So now we're actually going to the actual draft analysis, and this is where we're gonna kind of like apply the knowledge that I offered about how I draft a team into actually how I do actually draft a team. And based on like the formula I gave you guys in the last segment, this will all make sense. My team will make sense if you did watch it. If you didn't watch it, I probably will leave out timestamp in the beginning, saying like where I start my draft analysis, but let's just say that this all makes sense. So first pick, I looked at the draft board. I had 2 routes because this is on my first mon, my core mon. So I looked, and I had 2 routes. I was either gonna go for a walking wake route, where like I drafted walking wake first, and then I drafted a sliverwing and iron moth. That was gonna be my first route. Like that was my original plan because I think in this meta, sliverwing plus iron moth is very looked down to because we're paradox mons, but they're basically Volcarona clones, but that doesn't mean that they're bad together. So that was gonna be my first route. My second route was, my first route was also gonna be stuff like Torkoal, but that's not really relevant. My second route, I was actually gonna get Palafin. Palafin is a mon I want to use for a very long time. I think it's really solid, but I also think it's a mon that a lot of people are using wrong. If that makes sense, because I see people always leading Palafin. It's like, cool, if Palafin is strong in that matchup, lead it. If it's very, very weak, I say you do not lead it. So, it kind of helped my team and kind of helped my understanding Palafin. I decided to get Palafin because it was right there. I was 4th pick out of 8. So my first pick, the first pick overall was Quackwavel, which I don't blame because Quackwavel with Terra could be really good. Second pick was Jianpao, then it went Walking Wake. So then I got Palafin. Palafin, I'm not going to really explain in depth what it does because, again, you could just look it up if you're really curious, but I just think it's a really good mon to build around. I think it's really solid, I think it has some really good strengths, but I also do think it has some weaknesses. So, I wanted to build around this mon because I think it's very interesting. And then, I was looking at the board. I was really looking at the board. And for my second pick, I was like, okay, what's a good pairing for Palafin? It's like, okay, first thing that comes in mind is Goldango / Iron Treads. Okay, those are some pretty good combos. But they got taken, so I was like, okay, there's nothing in particular that fits well with Palafin. So I decided to go with the second method on my second pick. I decided to go with the best mon on the board. And the best mon on the board, in my opinion at least, was, I don't know how this mon was still available. I do think it's slightly worse than Gen 8, but I definitely do not think it's bad at all. And I definitely do think it deserves not to go past first round, if my opinion is. Now, I'm probably not even like past like 6th pick, which is Pult. So obviously, I do agree Pult is not as good as Gen 8 because there's more things that swap into it. It doesn't get stealing anymore, which I don't think is that big of a nerf, like, to be honest, because most of the time it's extremely rare that you stealing, and especially in this meta where there's like limited fairies, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. But I just wanted Pult because it was the best thing to pair Palafin. That's basically it. It was the best thing. It was the best pairing to Palafin. It was the best mon on the board because I was surprised that this mon was still there. I also have an option to go with Chi, but you know what means speed tiers. I don't like 2 mons in the same speed tier if I can, so I decided to get a base 100 speed tier all the way to a base 142 speed tier. I really like that. I'm not gonna really, again, go into what this Pult really does, but just know that like Pult is really, really, really good mon with that like base 115, like 115 attack, 100 special attack. I just think it's a really good mon, and I think it's really good dependent on Palafin, so I think overall I'm really happy with this pick. Third mon. So, to kind of go into context of this, I was going my strategy. It's like, okay, what is the best mon to pair Paladin and Dragapult. I was like, okay, right now, my team is really struggling swapping into fairy types, grass types, stuff like that, ice types. So I want to get Scissor. I do think it was the best thing to pair with him. I was considering King Gambit for a little bit, but Scissor with Defog, slow U-turn, stuff like that to kind of help get him a threats, I think is really good. Having that good Steel type really does help this team. And the thing I really like about Scissor is just that Palafin and Dragapult both resist fire types to a good extent. They can swap into most fire types, but Scissor can't. So like, it just kind of helps having Scissor with Palafin and Pult, because it's gonna really make my opponent think, okay, do I actually go for fire type move? So stuff like that. So yeah, that's Scissor. And my next pick, so my next pick was interesting. I did want to kind of have another good mon to pair well with Dragapult and Palafin. And looking at this, I definitely did not have an amazing electric type swap in, because like Palafin and Pult really does not want to swap into a electric type move, because if you really think about it, even if it's a small chance, it's a 10% chance to pair. So like, you really don't want to swap into an electric type hit. So I decided to get Rotom Heat. Rotom Heat I think is really good. Gives me slow Volt Switch, gives me fast Volt Switch, gives me stuff like that. Gives me kind of like a bridge, a speed tier between Scissor and Palafin, which I like. And overall, just Fire and Electric are just really good typings. It's an Overheat plus Vulnerable plus Volt Switch. Yeah, people could just look up if they're really concerned what Rotom Heat really does. But yeah, next pick, I think, yeah. So these are gonna be my glue pieces for my team. So I really wanted a fairy type next because I didn't get one already. I really wanted another kind of hazard removal option, and I was looking at the fairy types. It was between Screamtail, Gardevoir, and Hatterene. So I was really looking, and then I was realizing that these first 4 picks, they do cost a tiny bit of points. I do want to have some points later for the rest of my team. And I noticed that Hatterene was actually extremely underpriced. It was 9 points, while Gardevoir was 11, while Screamtail was 13. It's like, okay, I want to get something low price, so I just get Hatterene. It's a gold piece, it's a fairy type. Psychic types are okay in this meta. They're not amazing, but we're good. We're good in my opinion. And I think it's awfully slow, but I think it's okay because I think my team handles it pretty well. And another reason, one of the most crucial parts of my team, is the synergy between Palafin and Hatterene. What this means is, let's say my opponent has a hazard option. It's like a hyper offense hazard team. They lead something like a Tinglu, and I lead something like Palafin. They want to set up rocks because it can decently pressure my team. I could either stay in a Palafin, predicting that where, okay, you have Hatterene back. I do not want to set up hazards because I'm gonna have a really hard time getting them out. Or, and what I want to do then is like just swap in Hatterene. Or, no, yeah, if they want to just attack Palafin, predicting Hatterene to swap in, I could just Wave Crash or Jet Punch or get some damage at that Tinglu. Or, let's say predict from setting up hazards. Then I could go to Hatterene, bounce him back, and we are in a really good position. So that's kind of like one of the big parts about this team. Next pick, I really did want another glue piece. And I did really think that this mon was extremely valuable for my team. And I think, I'm pretty sure at least, that if I did not get this mon right here, I would not get it my next pick. And I really did need a grass type. I was really kind of torn between Serena and Wo-Chien, but I decided to get Serena. I think Serena's a pretty solid mon. Serena did lose knockoff, but it did keep spin, and it gives me another hazard removal option to give me just a lot of just give me some really decent hazard removal options. And I just think as a grass type, it's just really good, and I just need a grass type to be honest, as just another glue piece. And yeah, I'm not gonna explain much more about it because it's Serena. And my next pick, these are my very I want to say this is where my team goes downhill, but these last picks are a little bit rough, very little bit rough, but they are some glue pieces. So my next pick, I got Clodsire. I think I just need a ground type, I need a poison type. I wanted hazards, I wanted my 1 or 2 stealth rockers. I want to get at least get started my 1 to 2 stealth rockers. I wanted to get spikes / toxic spikes / both. So I thought it was just a good option to get Clodsire. I think it's very passive at times. I was very hesitant to get it, but I think overall it could be pretty good. And my next mon kind of goes along with Clodsire, so I'm just going to go straight to it. It's my normal type Dunsparce. I really like having normal type because it helps against ghost type spam. Which even though I do have one of the best Pokemon that can spam ghost type moves, I still want to have a ghost type swapping. So I think overall just a Dunsparce is a pretty solid mon. And it gives me some really good utility if I Calm Mind, Coil Sets, stuff like that. So I think just really solid mon overall. And this is a very, very interesting pick in my opinion. At least my next pick. This is where my team gets extremely interesting. There's sometimes when you kind of have to value stuff in draft. What I mean by that is sometimes there's a mon that works really well on your team, but it doesn't. It doesn't work well on your team, but it works well on your team. That may not make sense, but it will make sense in a second. I really thought this mon was going to be really good for my team, and I still do. But it's very misplaced in my team, in my opinion. Compared to my end result, I do think it's pretty misplaced. But I do think it was the best option available. Because, going back to my points, I had 19 points left in total. I mean, 19 points is a lot. But I could do a lot. Especially without me having 3 picks left, I could just be like, okay, I'm gonna get something like Cinderace or Greninja if that were still available. And then another 2-point mon. I could have done that. But looking at that, if you look at my team just right now, how well do Greninja or Cinderace look on my team? Not necessarily amazing. So I was looking. I really need to find type. I was heading for Flamingo at first, but I think Flamingo got sniped. So I decided to get Hawlucha. And spoiler alert, I actually did not get Terrain, which I was hesitant at first. But then I was doing some research, and I kind of realized this myself from playing Gen 6. Gen 6 Hawlucha did not have Terrain, but guess what? It was still really, really good. Because it still had that flying coverage, it can run stuff like White Herb, Close Combat, there's Power Herb, Sky Attack, stuff like that. And even though I think people are definitely going to rate my team lower because it does not have Terrain plus Hawlucha, but I do think that Hawlucha is good still. And the reason I did not want to get did not want to get Terrain, was certainly because I personally think every single Terrain user in this game is garbage. I do not think any Terrain user is good, if that makes sense. Because there's Pincurchin, there's Indeedee, there's Arboliva. I think Pincurchin, Indeedee, Arboliva, and I think that's about it. I think all of those mons are pretty bad, and if I were to get one of those mons, I would basically be just holding back my team. I was also considering some other options, like at the beginning of my draft, I was really considering getting Palafin Rain, but after doing some research, I kind of realized that Rain is just not great in this game. It's probably the third best lever behind Sand and Sun. And if I got Pelipper, it would just be holding back my team. So yeah, Hawlucha, it's a very interesting pick. It gives me enough for Defog Bond, and then more importantly, it gives me Mold Breaker and stuff like Limber. It just overall has considering the circumstances, has 3 really good abilities. Like, I could work with this mon. I'm definitely going to have to be a little bit more creative in my sets, but like, is being creative bad? Let's be honest, is being creative bad? No, so I could definitely work with this mon. My next mon, these are, I really wanted a Dark type because I could afford a Dark type, but I had 6 points left. There's no good Dark types in the 6-point tier, but I really wanted a Dark type. So I decided to get a 1-point mon and get a 5-point mon. So I decided to get the Dene. The Dene does literally not much for my team. It's a fairy type, it's a Fletcher type, it gives me a decent speed tier. It's a special attacker, just stuff like that. But personally, the reason why I got it is because I think it was the best 1-point mon available. And it might come to a match. I have some plans with it, but it's definitely nothing to kind of look at. And then going back to the format, if you kind of like see like the format, you definitely see that my 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th picks are kind of my glue pieces. And then my 10th and 11th picks are definitely lower tier threats. So at 1.1, I realized that I do not have a knockoff user. I love having a knockoff user. I really love having a knockoff user. But unfortunately, knockoff got very limited this gen, and only certain mons get it. So I decided to actually head for a dark type that gets knockoff, and probably one of the only dark types left that gets knockoff, which is Bombardier. I'm not a huge fan of this mon, especially with his team, but I do think it's really, really okay on my team. It gives me knockoff, it has similar role to Lucha, it gives me rocks, does stuff like that. I don't think it's bad on his team, but like, considering the circumstances, I might have been able to get something better, but I definitely do not think it's bad at all. From what I've seen, Bombardier hits hard. It really hits extremely hard, and I just think as a dark type, it's the best option I could get. And yeah, that's my team. If you kind of look at my team and kind of like the lesson I gave before, basically, I have my rockers, I have my spikes mon, I have my cleric, I have Hatterene, I have my speed tiers intact. The only exception is like Hulucha and a Dragapult. But in my opinion, if it's like 21, 22, 23, which I think Hulucha 118 to like 142 is like 22, or like 20, it's like 24, something like that. I don't think it's that big of a deal because not many months are going to be hitting a benchmark anyways. So I'm not that worried about it. But if you look at the format, first 2 months, kind of my 2 build around mons. 3rd and 4th mon, they support my first 2 mons very well. 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, they kind of glue my team apart. They kind of glue my team together. My 10th and 11th mons are kind of my low tier threats. Which, now we're going to get my terror captains. And I had a total of 25 points. I decided to go with Scissor and Rotom Heat. I think Scissor's an amazing terror captain, and I also think Rotom Heat is an okay terror captain. But I think Hatterene is such an amazing terror captain because, in my opinion, Psychic typing is a very poor defense typing. It's extremely poor in my opinion. And if I could Terra into Fairy into getting like Terra Fairy Hatterene, I would love that. I would absolutely love that. But sadly, that's not how points work because my original idea was to get Scissor, Hatterene, Bombardier. But that would equal 26 points instead of 25 because Scissor is 12, Hatterene is 9, that equals 21, Bombardier is 5, which is 26. So if I could, I would do that. And I think eventually I will make my Terra Captains Hatterene plus Scissor plus another mon. I'm looking at trades, and I do think my team is decent. But I think overall, for what I did, I think this team is really decent. Like, I'm happy with it. And I expect to do at least decent with it this season. So, I hope you guys enjoy this video, guys and gals. If you have any questions about methods, I know my methods are pretty interesting compared to a lot of other people's. I would love to hear in the comments of like what your methods are, and also I would want to hear what kind of do you like this format of videos? Do you like me doing educational videos? Because this may not seem educational to some people because people already know this stuff, but if we're being honest, if you are a veteran Draft League player, we want to get more people in format, because if people don't realize this, sometimes if you see the same people all the time, the format gets old. Like, you don't want to see the same people all the time. And then, if we really think about this, I'm talking to people in SDA. How'd you get into Draft League? Like, how did you get into Draft League? Were you like, okay, I'm gonna buy a capture card right away. I'm gonna buy a capture card and immediately start recording Draft League. I don't guarantee that at all. How I personally joined Draft League was in Gen 7, early Gen 7, I started Draft League. I started on Showdown. I eventually moved to Wi-Fi, and now I'm recording. Not anybody really starts recording when first doing Draft League, unless you are just like a competitive singles player person. So if we want to get people into Draft League, we have to try harder. We have to welcome people. We have to make guides. We have to make this intimidating format look less intimidating. So I think that's all I have for you guys. I would love to hear what you have to say in the comments. And yeah, thank you all for sticking through me. I think this is decently long, but yeah, I appreciate it. And